Growing up in Britain in the late 90s and early 2000s, I remember such wondrous things as dial-up internet, when Freddos were 10p, and when Pingu frightened me so much that I couldn't sleep for about a week. Hey guys, I'm Moose. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be exploring some spooky slash not so spooky kids TV shows that kind of frightened me as a child and maybe formed me into what I am as an adult today, and maybe what solidified some fears as an adult today. Now, not all of these shows were produced in England. To be honest, we didn't have like that many good choices.
I think I'm about to have one now.
I was also one of the few people who grew up without Sky or like paid television. So all I had access to as a kid was CBBC, CITV, and I think, yeah, CBeebies. And you're probably going to notice like a little theme in this video of stop animation. Now I think stop animation is stunning. The amount of work that goes into stop animation is crazy, and I have a completely new found love for it as an adult. But as a kid, this textural, jerky animation style really, it kind of awakens something in my lizard brain that is like, no. So you're going to see a good theme of stop animation on here, and this is like in no particular order or anything really. It's just kind of what's entered my mind and kind of what I really want to talk about. So let's get started. So Pingu, you may know Pingu from other lists such as this, where there is this walrus, and the walrus is terrifying and horrendous and scary, but it only really aired in the UK for a few years, and it was so notoriously scary for children that they had to take it off air, and it had a partial ban in the UK after that. I don't think it's on any UK VHSs of Pingu, so that's pretty impressive. So I managed to avoid the terrifying walrus. But Pingu is slightly notorious for having a lot of banned and edited episodes. So even though I didn't see the walrus episode, 2 episodes of Pingu still to this day scare me to watch. I'd argue that Pingu's Ice Cave and Pingu Runs Away are some of the scariest kids television programming I have ever seen, and these gave me nightmares for weeks on end. Pingu's Ice Cave is about Pingu and his friend going out to play when their ball gets stuck on a trapdoor to an ice cave. They both fall in and get stuck and now have to traverse and escape the cave. The concept of liminal space is really strong in this episode. Pingu's friend starts crying and it feels like it goes on forever, even though it was really short. It's about 5-minute episodes, I think. There's lots of short musical stings when things go wrong. And the thought of being stuck somewhere without a parent to help you is just awful. Pingu's dad eventually saves them, but it's still, this persistent lingering of like hopelessness still exists, and stories today about people getting stuck in caves or getting, you know, stuck in mountains or something, it's still frightening me so much to this day. They're one of the few pieces of kind of horror media that really get to me. Pingu Runs Away, which is another episode of Pingu, which is basically like a short horror film for children. In this episode, Pingu has an argument with his parents, so he runs away during the dead of night, and he comes across these horrendous ice sculptures that scare him so bad that he has to hide in a little like alcove thing, and his parents obviously come and find him in the end. But it's set up and shot like a horror movie. The image of the ice sculptures made it so I couldn't sleep some nights. I think they're trying to like come out of my wardrobe. Like as a kid, I remember lying in bed after watching that, and I had this wardrobe that was like, oh, it was horrible. It's like classic wardrobe, slightly open, something's gonna come out of the wardrobe like deal. And the way the shots like linger on the ice sculptures as well is very like horror-esque to me. and it builds up, like the episode builds up. Like at first he sees like a piece of ice that kind of looks like a claw, like just vaguely, and then he kind of walks a bit further and he sees just more ice sculptures with these absolutely horrendous faces. Pingu Runs Away actually got banned in the USA, and it was one of the few episodes pulled from UK TV, as well as the Walrus episode. I did see Pingu Runs Away and the Ice Cave episode when I was younger though, and I think it really did solidify my fear of caves and of getting lost, and it probably helped me to love horror as like a young teen, which we'll get to in a moment. I don't know where to start with this one. So we had, when I was growing up, we had a VHS of Aardman shorts, and I think it was mostly advertised as having creature comforts on the VHS, and it was this incredibly long VHS. It was like 2 hours 40 minutes, and it was just full of Aardman shorts. Now Aardman are the same people who make Wallace and Gromit and various other beautiful animations by Nick Park, I think his name is. Obviously they're going to have a lot of shorts because stop animation is very time consuming to make and yada yada. This VHS was advertised as family friendly. It was not family friendly. There's one short on there in particular called Ident. Ident was an Aardman short about a man essentially wanting to leave his normal life of grey and misery, and he has to put on faces for the people he interacts with. It was part of a series called Lip Sync, a series of 5 short films which use vox props, or voice of the people, as inspiration for the subject matter. Lip Sync also contained Creature Comforts as a short, and that's what became like the small series commissioned by Channel 4 after that. Looking back on Ident, the animation is fantastic. I actually love it now. The actual short itself has a very strong art house feel. It's the kind of thing you'd kind of see in an art exhibition, or if you were going to see a film festival or something. There's something about this short that kind of reawakens that lizard brain part of me, where it feels so uncomfortable and it's so frightening. Looking back on this animation, it's fantastic, but can you imagine an 8-year-old watching this and being mortified by the horrendous changing faces and the literal labyrinth he has to traverse to escape? The discordant soundscape and sound effects really added to the effect as well. And I genuinely still have nightmares about this today. Sometimes I'll wake up and still have like the same vague feeling that the short kind of made me feel. There is a scene that stuck with me the most where he's getting to the peak of his anxiety, and it zooms in really aggressively to his eyes, and they're real human eyes, and it just shook me so much as a child. The fact that he also literally turns into a clown by the end is just a cherry on the cake. The ending is horrible too. As soon as you think it's nice and fine and he's like escaped this labyrinthine hell he's in, he finds another person that has escaped and he starts arguing with them and like changing his face shape. It's horrible. There are actually loads of shorts on this VHS which also frightened me, and I might save it for another video because I think the entire kind of collection of those shorts are really interesting, and I think it kind of merits its own video. But I would actually go and check it out. If you look up Ident on YouTube, you can find the whole thing. It's 5 minutes. If you want to be spooked, then I recommend it. Spider, with an exclamation mark, was a British musical TV show involving an average household spider as the protagonist, and sometimes a little boy who was often frightened of him. There are actually only 13 episodes of Spider, but I only remember seeing one called Spider in the Bath. And this fear may be a very specific one to me, but it does involve spiders, and I know a lot of people are arachnophobic, so honestly this could apply to any kind of child growing up in this time. but I'm not personally very afraid of spiders, and I wasn't when I was a child. But the reason this one got me is because I watched it when I was really sick with flu, and that night I remember having the worst fever dream I think I've ever had in my life. It felt so real, about this spider coming down the pipe, and it turned from being very cartoony and cute as it appears in the cartoon to being very like realistic and freakish, and like the bathroom was dirty, like a bit like Silent Hill-esque thing. So this is a very personal one to me, but I thought I'd mention it just in case. But the juxtaposition of like the cute song and the cute animation with this horrendous little creepy crawly coming out of the drainage hole in the bath just made it so I just never wanted to take a bath again. And rewatching this show now, I think it's quite cute and quite cheeky, and I quite like the character of Spider. I think he's quite adorable. So yeah, let me know if that one freaked you out too. Oh my god, Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids is my favourite. First of all, it has the best opening to a kids show ever. You can fight me on this. I'd argue the opening was probably better than the actual show itself, but weirdly the opening is stop motion and it had a really good theme song, and it kind of made me excited to watch an episode every single time. The series is based on books by the same name by British author Jamie Ricks, which I never read, but I watched this series a lot. It was like black horror comedy for children, and like as a 10-year-old I didn't quite understand that it was meant to be so ridiculous it's funny.
It makes me want to be sick!
But it was so absurdly disgusting that it was funny. But I think that somehow made it more scary because it has such a strong shift towards being ridiculous and funny to kind of being set in more realistic circumstances. It was basically like cautionary tales for like kids' bad behaviour, and the bad behaviour of the kids was like average things kids do. And it was kind of like modern Grimm's fairy tales in that aspects, hence probably why Grizzly Tales, Grimm Tales, kind of similar. But the animation was cheap as hell. They reused shots constantly.
Her paws are white and her tail is black.
And it was so ugly. Like, I don't think an artist did this. I think it was just so unattractive to look at. It had really desaturated colours and like these weird gradients on people's skin and stuff. It was so ugly, but I think it worked in its favour because it was so jerky and uncanny and kind of discordant and like slow. Some of the concepts are pretty dark. There was an episode where a greedy child tries to return a cat for reward and ends up finding the dead real cat that's been flattened by a car, only to like inflate it with a bicycle pump and put lipstick on it to make it alive to try and send it back to the original owners for cash.
Flat as a pancake, but still useful. She inflated its body with a bicycle pump, put some colour back into its face with her mum's lipstick, and tied a piece of invisible fishing line through its teeth.
It's okay though, she gets eaten by a tiger at the end and you see the tiger with like the child inside. In fact, actually, a lot of Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids ended up with kids either being turned into something or being eaten. So another episode of Grizzly Tales was called The Spaghetti Man, which may or may not sound creepily, eerily similar to Slender Man. But it's about a child who won't eat his dinner, but a stringy, like, ghostly spaghetti man starts, like, tormenting him and his family. And I distinctly remember this spaghetti ghost man coming, his shadow being cast underneath the door, and that just horrible visual for a child, because as I said, you kind of imagine things in your bedroom at night coming around the door or through your wardrobe, so that was kind of very similar feel. But eventually the spaghetti man captures him and takes him to his factory dimension, which sounds like an SCP now, where there's a whole other bunch of kids and they're all labelled with different types of pasta. So like all the long people are like noodles, and all like the short fat children are macaroni, and our main character is labelled as like lasagna. So all these children get turned into pasta basically. That is the consequence for not eating your tea. The spaghetti man will come and turn you into pasta. But the ending is so obvious. It ends with his mum and dad are completely happy without him. They don't even notice he's gone. And his mum is making dinner for her and her husband. And guess what it is?
It's lasagna!
But the concept is absolutely ridiculous. Each episode had a different story like this, and I think it made me love anthology horror as an adult. I love Goosebumps for the same reason. But as a kid, the thought of cannibalism or being turned into something was pretty hefty, and I think that first concept of cannibalism kind of arose in those shows to me, which is just horrendous. It's horrendous. But I do love Grizzly Tales Gruesome Kids, and I remember it really fondly, and it's such a weird anomaly. It's just like one of those things that just exists and happened to be aired on TV.
But coming up next, it is Bernard's Watch, and today Bernard helps out a neighbour in need.
If you believe in miracles, come with me.
Here's a baby who blinks when she opens her eyes.
Here it comes, baby.
A baby whose skin is a soft surprise.
Here it comes, baby.
Feels so real.
If you hit me at 40 miles an hour, there's around an 80% chance I'll die. Hit me at 30 and there's around an 80% chance I'll live.
The Think ad campaign was a government-run campaign with the aim to reduce traffic accidents in the UK. The Think campaign has actually been going on for 75 years, and I didn't know this until researching for this video, that it had been going on for that long. And in my personal opinion, they kind of used a lot of fear tactics, and it was a little bit kind of aggressive the way that they kind of advertised road safety. And honestly, I think it made more people want to look away from the TV rather than kind of watch it and actually learn something about safety. And there were so many, like the one you just saw that I remember. You might remember the really nice, lovely one with the hedgehogs. That was very cute. I do remember that one quite fondly. But I was one of the many that were horrified by the 2006 It's 30 for a Reason ad campaign, which depicts a ran over girl on the side of the road with all of her bones broken, and she slowly comes back to life, like unbreaking all of her bones in like a sickening way. And it was to highlight the difference what 10 miles an hour could make to life and death. This advert was so effective to me as a kid that I was slightly terrified to even cross the road for a while. And this advert wasn't even really targeted. This advert wasn't really even targeted towards me. It was more targeted towards, you know, drivers. So for it to affect me so deeply as a child is just, but nonetheless, I think a lot of British kids lost sleep over this one. It's just the cracking bones. It's too visceral. It's too much like what you'd see in a horror film. And the fact that it was a child as well, I think affected a lot of people emotionally.
I'm the bear, with brown fuzzy hair.
Ah, the lion and the bear. I'm sorry for jump scaring you there. That rhymed. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. This was probably the most iconic scary scene from kids television in the 2000s. So many people sent me this while I was researching this video. And yes, it was horrendous. It scared me too. This episode in particular of Teletubbies had a full ban in USA and a partial ban and re-edit in the UK after some controversies came out about it and it scaring some children, but it was nowhere near the backlash it had in the USA. And the re-edit had new sounds and music, but it was still frightening. Like, in fact, it had this jaunty clown music over the top in the re-edit, and it almost makes it worse, but the tension is a bit lessened in the re-edit. Intentionally or not, the whole sequence is set up like Babby's first horror movie, with the lion and the bear literally jumping out from the side of the screen after the cameras being held on the landscape for a few seconds. It just is building up tension for you to be frightened. And the sky is slightly overcast, and it's slightly like, it looks like it's gonna rain. And the 2D nature of the lion and the bear is really uncanny, like the little googly eyes and like the ventriloquist dummy kind of flappy mouth made them so frightening. You can kind of imagine the lion and the bear to be like 60 feet tall. They look so enormous. You never actually see one against a Teletubby, but they look like they would be like enormously tall. And the growl of the lion sounds like a demon creature, like in a horror film, like a possessed person. Like, I don't know who thought that was a cute look, a cute sound.
I am the scary lion with big scary teeth.
Teletubbies actually had a lot of other things in it too that frightened me. In the same episode, in fact, just after the lion and the bear, there was this pink house with this puppet walking around from room to room, turning the light on and off and having this weird warbled singing. And at the end, he opens a window and starts like yelling in like this horrendous tone. And I can't really explain why this frightened me. I think it was just so abstract and so weird that it just got to me somehow as a kid, especially after seeing The Lion and the Bear. There's also this other episode where this carousel UFO like comes out of the sky in this terrible CGI, and this like CGI animation of this bear tap dances to this like horrendous like jaunty music, and it's so uncanny, especially the eyes. The eyes are, oh, that's scary, man. Yeah, but it's safe to say Lion and the Bear scarred an entire generation. Not really, it's just a kids show.
Dog and duck, we're the best of friends, and we'll be friends with you.
Dog and Duck was like a fairly innocent preschool kids show about the adventures of like a dog and a duck. And I think the dog is meant to be a stuffed dog on like a little wheelie thing. I could never really honestly tell. And I could also never tell if Duck was meant to be a hyper-realistic duck but with just a blue beak, or if she was meant to be just a toy. And I think my fear of this show is quite shallow. It's mostly the animatronic puppets of Duck and Dog and some of the other characters in the show which made the show so frightening to me. Duck moved almost too realistically in the face, but the rest of her body was like completely no movement. I don't even remember like her wings moving at any point. So it was just her head, and it kind of does this weird snake movement, which is just really uncanny. And Dog also had this like really creepy unblinking stare. There's a fair few moments of actual genuine fear as well. There's this one episode in particular about rain, and one of the characters, which is a giant talking piano, starts singing about a storm as they're kind of learning about rain. And Dog and Duck get really visibly frightened by it.
Well, you're not on a boat, you're in a house, and you're frightening everyone.
And their TV friend, which is another horrendous creation, like has to tell Piano to like stop frightening them. But the way the camera shakes as this is going on is just, it's so scary. The whole show has a very don't hug me, I'm scared kind of vibe, with all the different characters and like the slow, unnatural dialogue.
Water.
What?
That big drop of rain plopping on the windowsill.
They're all big. That's the trouble.
I might be the only one here who's actually freaked out by this show, but I remember it turning on and I either left the room or I had to like hide behind the pillow while my brother watched it. I just couldn't. I found it too scary for some reason.
Hello! Hi! Yes. Oh, no, it's all right. No, it's okay. Think nothing of it. You only had to ask.
Oh my god, Mr. Blobby is infamous when it comes to British kids and like fear factor. Mr. Blobby was a character that featured on Noel's House Party, which aired in 1991 to 2000. Even though I only watched this show lightly, Mr. Blobby was such like a cultural icon. He felt like he was almost cameoed in loads of other stuff. Most of the fear again comes from the way he looks, with this weird skin-like diseased bag body and these horrendous big eyelashes. I couldn't find anywhere online what Mr. Blobby's meant to be. I kind of just guessed that he might just be like an alien. But the way he moves as well, he moves in this like jerky, weirdly fast way. And most of all, Mr. Blobby was a dick. He was always there to cause mayhem and just fuck everyone's day up.
There you go, you gotta get it right, otherwise you... Remember, take the top of the paper and let the roll fall to the ground.
And it was almost funny. Like, if I watch Mr. Blobby back now, I find it really funny because it is so ridiculous. And he's like the definition of like, you just laugh at him. Like, he's so stupid and he will just fall down and do all these stupid stuff that is actually just kind of hilarious now. Oh my god, I forgot about the voice. The voice as well. He sounds like a robot, like a demonic robot. Who thought that was cute? Or funny, for that matter. I could think of some funny voices that aren't so horrendous. Like, I don't understand. But there is an episode where Mr. Blobby goes to a shopping centre, and as I was researching this video, I watched this and I was like, I recognise that shopping centre. And my boyfriend saw it and was like, that's Watford. That's the Harlequin in Watford. Lo and behold, it was. I looked it up, and so that means that I have walked on the same hallowed ground as Mr. Blobby.
Have you ever had one of those days when you know right from the start that it's all going to end in tears? I think I'm about to have one now.
Eliminator. I had to put this one on here because I had completely forgotten about this. And I found it just randomly and I was like, oh my god, I remember being scared of that guy.
And the losers are eliminated.
Eliminator was this really budget kids game show that aired on CITV in 2003. The aim of the game was to not get captured by the Eliminator by answering trivia correctly and moving forward spaces away from him. I don't have lots to say about this other than just look at him.
Now guys,
he is a goth queen. He literally wore New Rocks. He was just completely 80s like glam rock attire and was a full-on creep. He would just stand behind these kids throughout the whole episode while the kids are answering trivia and just be there like this. Honestly, it's really hilarious and you can see the kids trying their absolute hardest not to laugh at it sometimes. You can see their like dead faces, like trying so hard not to laugh.
3 moves.
But it's so embarrassing because this dude gave me nightmares. How did this happen? I was not even that young in 2003. I was born in 1995, so you do the maths, but how did he give me nightmares?
Question. So keep that in mind, have a chat and decide whether you'd like...
It was such a subpar show as well. It was just answering trivia and that was kind of about it. Like when he captured you, all he did was just go meh and like you all disappeared, and then like the kids, there'll be an interview with the kids after and the kids are like, yeah, we did okay, it's kind of a shame that we lost, and it's just like, wow, That was scary. The final moment on my list is the beloved Groke. Now, I didn't really watch Moomins as a kid, which is a shame because I think if I did watch it, I would have absolutely just had a whole level of new appreciation for it, and like, I want that nostalgia for the show. But I've watched it now and I love it. It has a very like Studio Ghibli feel to the show. And I'm very specifically talking about the adventures of Moomin Valley. But it has a very Studio Ghibli film, which is not a surprise because it was produced by a Japanese, Finnish, Dutch production. However, there is just this little cutie that everyone who watched it remembers, the Groke. Now, I love the Groke. I think she is the cutest bean on earth. All she wants is love, even though everything she touches dies. It's me, because I kill plants, but I just want the plant love. So I relate to the Groke is what I'm trying to say. But the scene where you first see her is so scary. And I see a lot of people cite the scene where she's walking up to the house and like Moomin Papa, I think his name's Moomin Papa, has like a gun. He's about to shoot her if she doesn't come any closer. But then like one of the Moomins gives her like presents and a heart, and it's just the most heartwarming thing. Anyway, I love her. I don't have much to say about it other than I just love her, and we need to stop the Groke hate. As much as she was terrifying to us as 8-year-olds, Groke is beautiful. We love her. We stan her. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed. This video has taken actually quite a lot of effort to research, and I researched a whole bunch of other topics that I didn't include in this video because I didn't want to make it too long. So if you'd like a part 2, please let me know because I've already written the notes down. But let me know your thoughts in the description. Is there anything that I missed on here that you thought would really be appropriate? Because researching this, people had such insanely different ideas of what scared them as kids, and I feel like everyone's take on it is quite unique, so it's really interesting to hear all about it. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. I want to make more content like this, so subscribing and liking will help me inform wanting to make more content like this. But yeah, thanks so much guys, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye! What's the dance I'm going to do today at the end? This one? Going with this one. Cool.